this gathering hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. Whether you are here in person or online, we are glad to have you join us. If you would also join me in setting your phones to silent. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is the Reverend Davi Hayes. The Reverend Hayes is a non-binary Eastern Christian priest, certified life coach, and corporate growth professional. They currently serve as the pastor of the Mustard Seed, an Eastern Catholic church in Frederick, Maryland, that ministers to the LGBT community. Hayes is also the founder and CEO of Gender-Lib, a coaching program that serves the trans community exclusively. The program is designed to create safe spaces for members of the trans community and bear witness to their experiences so that they can become their authentic selves with confidence and flourish. Under the Gender-Lib umbrella, Hayes has leveraged their extensive experience in growing Fortune 500 and small businesses alike into the Trans Entrepreneurship Initiative, a group coaching program that helps trans entrepreneurs grow their businesses. They reside in the D.C. metro area with their spouse, Emily, their 4 children, and their slightly narcoleptic chihuahua. Though we each walk our own path here in this place, in the land of the Osage, the Cherokee, and the Shawnee, and the Yuchi, we now, at this time, we journey together as one community. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. As our congregation's chalice is lit, please light your own chalice at home if you have one. So we're going to begin with a responsive reading. So as I come to this season brings forth many feelings, your response will be, we find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together. All around us are bright lights and merry messages. Yet in our heart, not all is joyful. There is grief with the loss of relationships, those we love, no longer with us because of death, those we have loved who are estranged from us, those we love yet experience a diminishment of intimacy. There is grief with the loss and change of relationship. Grief bittersweet, for it is a consequence of the presence of love. This season brings forth many feelings.
We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
All around us are bright lights and merry messages. Yet in our heart, not all is joyful. There may be pain in our bodies, physical pain as a natural outcome of aging, physical pain that presents itself in illness, pain in the body that forces us to change and imposes limitations. Pain bittersweet, for physical experience includes both pain and pleasure, and this season brings forth many feelings. All around us, bright lights and merry messages. Yet in our heart, not all is joyful. There may be anger and regret with the memories we hold. Anger with past experiences of hurt or abuse. Regret of our own actions that may have caused hurt to others. Anger that life has not turned out as we imagined. Regret for what we might have said or done. Anger and regret, bittersweet, and presenting the possibility for healing and forgiveness. This season brings forth many feelings.
We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
All around us are bright lights and merry messages, yet in our heart not all is joyful. There may be uncertainty that accompanies transition and change, uncertainty of what the future may bring with changes, uncertainty of direction or purpose after retirement or change of vocation, uncertainty when changing residence by choice or necessity, uncertainty, bittersweet for change, a constant in life. Let us know that we are alive and change along with the season that brings forth many feelings.
We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
All around us, bright lights and merry messages, yet in our heart, not all is joyful. There may be the sense of hopelessness, hopelessness in the face of so much violence and suffering, hopelessness with attempts to heal our aching world and ourselves, hopelessness in witnessing what we have not managed to accomplish. Hopelessness, bittersweet for its longing, reminds us of our capacity for hope and the human spirit's tenacity and courage that rests deep within each of us. This season brings forth many feelings.
We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
All around us are bright lights and merry messages, yet in our heart not all is joyful. There's loneliness. Loneliness when we find ourselves alone after being long partnered. Loneliness when we are separated from loved ones. Loneliness when we move to a new community and struggle to find our way. Loneliness that never seems filled even with good company. Loneliness that is an ever-present aching in our heart. Loneliness, bittersweet, for it is felt only when we have known connectedness. And this season brings forth many feelings.
We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
All around us are bright lights and merry messages, yet in our heart not all is joyful. We know grief and pain. We know anger and regret. We know hopelessness and loneliness. We know all these feelings. We name them. We live them, for such is the human experience. That love presents us with the possibility of being hurt, with the grief of loss. That connection holds the potential of loneliness and uncertainty. That forgiveness can begin to heal anger and regret. That being alive is a courageous act in which we engage all of our emotions, and this season brings forth many feelings.
We find comfort in naming these feelings. We find some peace in being together.
We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, you're invited to join in the song Spirit of Life. The words will be on the screen. As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Here, via video to share their own thoughts today is the Reverend Davi Hayes.
Good morning, Bowling Green. My name is Reverend Davi Hayes. I am an affirming priest and the pastor of the Mustard Seed Eastern Catholic Church. We are a welcoming and affirming church in historic Frederick, Maryland. I am also a life coach and the founder of GenderLib, a coaching program that serves the trans community exclusively. The program is designed to create safe spaces for members of the trans community and bear witness to their experiences so that they can become their authentic selves with confidence and flourish in today's society. The work that I do is centered around the principles of my faith, which is heavily influenced by Eastern spirituality, both Eastern Christianity and Buddhism. I am also an active member of my local Zen Buddhist community, which is part of the White Plama Sangha and the lineage of Matsumi Roshi. Before we talk about how to say no to family over the holidays in ways that are kind, compassionate, and guilt-free, I want to expand a little bit into what I believe from three lenses: Christianity, Buddhism, and life coaching. Christianity. I think that unfortunately a lot of the Christianity we see in our country today is exclusionary, unaffirming, judgmental, and downright hateful at times. The public face of Christianity in America today bears little connection to the historic faith of our ancestors. Father James and I are both part of a faith community called the Convergent Catholic Communion, which is an independent Catholic church whose members are joyfully and unapologetically Christian, in that we pledge ourselves completely to the way of love. We express that love in three ways, as Jesus taught us: by loving God, neighbor, and self. Christian love for God includes walking fully in the path of Jesus without denying the legitimacy of other paths that God may provide for humanity. Listening for God's word, which comes through daily prayer and meditation, studying the ancient testimonies, which we call scripture, and attending to God's present activity in the world. celebrating the God whose spirit pervades and whose glory is reflected in all of God's creation, including the earth and its ecosystems, the sacred and secular, the Christian and non-Christian, the human and the non-human, and expressing our love and worship that is as sincere, vibrant, and artful as it is scriptural. Christian love for neighbor includes engaging people authentically, like Jesus did, treating all as creations made in God's very image, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, age, physical or mental ability, nationality, or economic class. Standing, as Jesus does, with the outcast and oppressed, the denigrated and the afflicted, seeking peace and justice with or without the support of others. Preserving religious freedom and the church's ability to speak prophetically to government by resisting the commingling of church and state. And walking humbly with God, acknowledging our own shortcomings while honestly seeking to understand and call forth the best in others, including those who consider us their enemies. A Christian love for self includes basing our lives on the faith that in Christ all things are made new and that we and all people are loved beyond our wildest imaginations, both now and for all eternity. Claiming the sacredness of both our minds and our hearts, and recognizing that faith and science, doubt and belief serve the purpose and the pursuit of truth. Caring for our bodies and insisting on taking time to enjoy the benefits of prayer, reflection, worship, and recreation in addition to work. And finally, acting on the faith that we are born with meaning and purpose, a vocation and ministry that serve to strengthen and extend God's realm of love. Zen Buddhism. A useful definition of Zen is the practice of being present, experiencing fully, and doing what needs to be done. Some of the core values of the White Plum Sangha specifically are: 1, a familiarity with the history of our lineage and an appreciation for the gifts of our heritage. 2, a growing awareness of the interdependence of all beings and consequently our engagement in the alleviation of the suffering of the world, including careful behavior in all of our relationships. 3, a recognition of our own limitations and needs through the cultivation of self-awareness, enabling us to deeply appreciate the causes and effects of our actions. 4, an affirmation of the essential awakened nature of all beings, as seen in particular in the encouragement of students to realize and actualize this. And 5, an openness to cultivating respect for diversity of religious traditions and Dharma expressions, including non-hierarchical structures and processes among all members. Additionally, Buddhists believe in the 4 noble truths, which are that life involves suffering in obvious and subtle forms. Even when things seem good, we always feel an undercurrent of perhaps anxiety and uncertainty inside. And that the cause of suffering is craving and fundamental ignorance. We suffer because of our mistaken belief that we are a separate, independent, solid I. That the painful and futile struggle to maintain this delusion of ego is known as samsara, or a cyclic existence. Now, the good news is that our hiding from these hidden truths are temporary. They are like passing clouds that may obscure the sun of our enlightened nature, which is always present. And therefore, suffering can end because these hidden truths can be purified and the awakened mind is always available to us. By living ethically, practicing meditation, and developing wisdom, we can take exactly the same journey to enlightenment and freedom from suffering that all Buddhas do. We too can wake up. That 4th noble truth provides a guide to the end of suffering, which is also called the Eightfold Path, that you may have heard of before. Right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and finally, right concentration. Life coaching. As a life coach, I believe that every human being not only has limitless potential, but has answers to their most pressing questions inside of them already. You do too. Call it God, inner wisdom, or intuition, we all have it. And my job is to help people unlock the answers through insightful questioning and observations so that they can clarify, achieve, and be held accountable to their goals. Through empathy, consistency, and insight, I walk a path with my clients for as long as they need me to. Coaching and therapy are actually on the same continuum, the same spectrum, whereas therapy is for folks who are just trying to work past mental illness, neurodivergence, and/or past trauma in order to reach a baseline where they can maintain important relationships, jobs, and enjoy their lives. Coaching is very much based on goals and future visioning. It's about flourishing beyond the baseline and putting in the work towards improvement, whether personal or professional. I personally ascribe to the core values set forth by the International Coaching Federation. They include professionalism. We commit to a coaching mindset and professional quality that encompasses responsibility, respect, integrity, competence, and excellence. Collaboration. We commit to develop social connection and community building. Humanity. We commit to being humane, kind, compassionate, and respectful towards others. And equity. We commit to using a coaching mindset to explore and understand the needs of others so that we can practice equitable processes at all times that create equality for all people. So, I just threw a lot at you in terms of my background and spiritual influences. But the important thing to remember when we talk about saying no to family over the holidays is the love of self, living ethically, and practicing kindness, compassion, and respect. This is the time of year where we tend to get stressed out by the ever-increasing demands of family to attend holiday gatherings, religious services, or provide help in other related ways. Many people find it difficult to say no to others when the others are people in their family. Human beings are programmed to believe they have to step in and help their family at all costs. And while this sentiment seems to be compassionate and even noble at first glance, some family members are more so takers than givers. Some family members can be more difficult to please no matter what is done for them. It helps to know when it is time to say no to people you're related to and how to say no to family without creating unnecessary ruptures within those relationships. It's really hard to say no when a family member asks for help, but people are forced to say no for a variety of reasons. Reason number one is when yes becomes enabling. You really do want to help them. You can see how they might need your help, and you might think that about all the things that might go wrong if you don't jump in and say yes to their requests. But think about what your yes is providing them. Is it helping them or is it enabling them? Does your yes prevent them from stepping up, from taking responsibility and solving their own problems? If so, a no is probably the right answer. Reason number two to say no is when helping them becomes draining. Maybe you are constantly saying yes to a family member. There doesn't seem to be a week that goes by when they're not calling you up and asking for a favor. If saying yes becomes a consistent financial or emotional drain, you should consider saying no sometimes. The third reason to say no is that the relationship is one-sided. Now, you might ask family for help on occasion, but only when you really need it. And you try not to go to the same person for every need you have. On the other hand, you have a few particular family members who come to you for everything. They know you won't say no to them, and this is an example of a one-sided relationship. One person gets more out of it than the other, and one-sided relationships are inherently unhealthy. Reason number four is that nothing is ever good enough. You often may extend a helping hand to a family member only to hear negative feedback. If you are helping someone who never seems to be satisfied, consider saying no to their request next time. Just because someone is related to you doesn't mean they aren't toxic. Now, once you've decided that saying no to a family member is the best course of action, how do you do so without causing family rifts? Well, my first tip is to start the conversation positively. So here you are, having to say no to a family member and you might feel guilty about it. You're worried about how they might react. Start the conversation on a positive note. If good things have happened in their life recently, ask about what's going well. Let them tell you about their good news. If you might share common memories or inside jokes, talk about those. Starting a conversation this way eases the tension that stems from asking for favors that are declined. My next tip is don't draw it out. The longer you ramble, the more likely you are to backpedal and retract your no, replacing it with a very reluctant yes. When saying no, make your message short and sweet. Start on a positive note and tell them you cannot fulfill their request. My next tip is to give them credit. Asking for help is not easy, and while you might think that this particular family member has no qualms about coming to you for assistance, it might actually be hard for them to ask you for things. So remember to practice empathy in terms of how they might feel asking for your help, and try to step into their shoes. Another good tip is to find an alternative to yes. A flat out no is not going to go over well compared to a constructive no. Say no, but help brainstorm alternatives to their demands. Maybe you have others in mind with a more flexible schedule than yours, or people who have skills in the area in which your family needs help. Here are some examples of offering alternatives. Unfortunately, I have to work that day, but I think maybe John and Jane have weekends off. Maybe they could help you out. Or, I'd love to help, but I know next to nothing about building a deck. Let's think of someone who might be more useful than I can be. Or, I can't babysit this weekend. I have plans that can't be changed, but maybe next month when things lighten up for me, I could take the kids out for a dinner date and give you some much needed free time. My next tip is to simply be honest. It may sound cliche, but honesty really is the best policy. Sometimes you have to tell family exactly why you can't give them a yes. For instance, you can't help them move because you have a bad back. You can't take the kids on Saturday because that's the only day you can run errands. Or you can't come for Christmas because you committed to seeing other family members. If your family loves and respects you, they will understand that you aren't Superman and that sometimes you need to take care of yourself. My next tip is don't commit on the spot. When you're surprised with someone asking you for something, saying yes is the natural reaction. At the end of the day, all we want to do is please others. But if you say yes too quickly, you may realize later, after further consideration, that you should have said no. When this happens, let them know that you'll have to check your calendar and see if you can swing it. Then go home and weigh the pros and cons and get back to them when you're confident in your decision. Finally, keep it face-to-face or at least a voice call when possible. A text saying, sorry, I can't is not going to go over well when talking face-to-face. On the phone, in such a way that's more personal is going to be much more effective. This is because a voice conversation leaves little room for any misinterpretation. And it's hard to tell tone over text, and what you want to do is be clear when you set this type of boundary. One last point I want to make is that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. You are not a superhero, and that's okay. It's not your job to be at the beck and call of anyone, even if it is family. Remember not to confuse support with being a doormat. Say yes in emergency situations or when your schedule allows. Additionally, make sure you're at peace with deciding to say no. Consider that if you say yes to a family member, it means saying no to something else in your life, and too often your own self-care and mental well-being may take a backseat. Self-care is just as important as caring for others. I like to think of the old adage of putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others on a plane. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't help anyone unless you're taking proper care of yourself. So make sure you're saying yes to yourself first and foremost. And when deciding whether or not to help a family member, listen to your gut. Listen to your inner intuition. Chances are that if you're being asked to attend a stressful family dinner that's going to leave you emotionally depleted rather than reinvigorated, it isn't a good idea. As busy and hectic as this time of year can get for everyone, take the time to think about the things you want to do, things that will fulfill you, bring you joy, and make you the best version of yourself. As you shift your focus to this, you'll find it becomes easier to make tough decisions about how to spend your time. And the family members who truly love and support you will understand. I hope you all have a happy holiday season and a wonderful new year filled with family, friends, your supportive and loving community, and the things that light you up. If you have any questions or want to continue the conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at presbytermax@mustardseed.church. Stay safe and be well always.
This congregation and the work we do is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who contribute. The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. Our greeters will now pass the collection plate. You may also use the QR code that was on the screen to donate via our website. As we enjoy the music, the offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. Service possible today, namely our musical talent, Spencer, and obviously our tech advisor, Matt. Not sure what's next. Announcements. So we have a few announcements. Guess at your table campaign is still ongoing, and there are boxes outside for donations. There's a Christmas dinner on Christmas. There's a sign-up sheet in the fellowship hall. I've been asked to ask you to please sign up if you're going to come, so we have an accurate number to plan for. Okay. So if you'd like to learn more about our UU Church, you can join the membership team for the second Sunday QUUA table in the fellowship hall after the service. Okay. So we have some, I think that's all the, yep.
Just want to remind everybody next week is illumination. Please bring a chalice if you have one.
Anyone else have announcements?
I didn't hear what she said.
Next week is illumination ceremony.
Please bring a chalice.
Please bring a chalice.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else?
Lunch fund is going to India Oven today.
Oh, lunch brunch is going to India Oven. Apparently this isn't working. Got it working now, I think.
There we go. All right. We have one more reading. Oh, after this hymn. So I didn't want today to pass without mentioning this is the 1 year from the storms last year, the kind of anniversary. And I know that that's been something that's affected, obviously, this community. It's affected people within this community. And it's something that you would hope a year after we would all be kind of healed from, but there's still kind of scars on the landscape, and there's definitely still scars and healing to be done within our communities. So I wanted to offer a recipe for resilience. I am generally very cautious about the word resilience. There's some things with that sometimes forced upon us, but I do think this recipe is quite appropriate. This recipe has been tweaked over time, so adjust as necessary. Sometimes it yields more servings than anticipated. Sometimes it needs a bit more of this ingredient or that. It comes from generations who have gone before me, and I've added my own flavor along the way. A recipe for resilience. 1 part courage. 2 part tears of failure and doubt. 1 part deep listening. 1 part each of both silence and laughter. A dash of trust, a pinch of wonder, a heaping scoop of naps and snacks. In a separate bowl, mix together family, friends, and those who challenge you to be your best self, those with whom you disagree. Add slowly to the larger pot. Add a bay leaf for, well, whatever it is bay leaves do. And let simmer for as long as you need, which is often longer than you realize or anticipate. Keep the heat at an even temperature, not hot enough to cook throughout, but not so hot it burns the bottom. Can be served at room temperature, warm, or even cold if necessary. Serve alongside your favorite soft blanket, dog, cat, or other soft item. Make often, share with others, and hold on to the leftovers. You'll need them after a long day that challenges your soul. We now bid farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again. Be well and go in peace. Our community is strengthened by sharing with